Stephen Hawking has recently come up with an explanation of how, quote unquote, something came from nothing, end quote, which he says explains the lack of a need for a first cause or a God. I guess basically he says that the universe resulted from a type of spontaneous combustion. What is your response to Hawking? Thank you, and this is from Larry via email.
Larry, good question. I mean, yes, Stephen Hawking has made that statement. In fact, sort of instead of a spontaneous combustion, it was actually the laws of gravitation is how he put it. Let me just go back 2 steps first. And first, I just want you to read the ending part of Stephen Hawking's book, A Brief History of Time, which was written earlier than The Grand Design, which is his most recent book from which your statement came from. Now, in The Brief History of Time, Stephen Hawking actually asks, he says, look, the equations of physics cannot explain how the equations became active. So we have to ask the question, right, what, ignited, these equations? What was this litmus paper that ignited the equations so that the equations weren't just something in someone's mind, but that the equations of physics, in fact, became efficacious in the physical universe as we know it? Now, of course, that is very much an openness to God, with the suggestion at the end that God has to be the cause that does it. Now that, now flash forward about 14 years to the Grand Design. Now we get the exact opposite opinion. Now we have Stephen Hawking saying that it was the laws of gravitation that actually was able to generate the physical universe out of nothing. Now just a minute, let's get one thing straight. Don't be talking about nothing unless you mean nothing. And here's the thought, this goes all the way back to Parmenides, right? This is, a teacher of Plato from the 5th century BC, right? And here comes Parmenides, and he just says, look, nothing is nothing. There's no such thing as nothing. Being is being. And being is not nothing, and nothing is not being. Now that makes a whole lot of sense to me. But if you want to sneak something into nothing, I don't care whether it's the laws of gravitation, I don't care whether it's spontaneous combustion, I don't care whether it's a very low energetic threshold of a false fluctuation of a quantum field, whatever it is, if it's something, please don't sneak it into nothing. Now here is the paradox, Larry. The paradox is, if you really mean prior to a beginning of physical reality there was really nothing, and you mean nothing by nothing, then I can tell you one thing right now. When the whole universe or physical reality was nothing prior to the beginning, the only thing it could do was nothing. Because the only thing nothing can do is nothing. And if you say that nothing can do something, you are contradicting yourself, Stephen Hawking. I don't care how intelligent you are, that is a contradiction. Next level. If the universe, or all of physical reality, prior to the beginning was nothing and could only do nothing, then something else is going to have to move the universe from nothing to something when it's nothing, because it could not have moved itself from nothing to something, because the only thing it could do was nothing. Now that makes sense to me. Everything else is a blatant equivocation on the word nothing, where you're sneaking something into nothing. Now let's get to Stephen Hawking's proposition. His proposition is that the laws of gravitation, this is going to be prior to a physical universe. So these laws of gravitation, which he's equating with nothing, right? These laws of gravitation that exist prior to the physical universe, prior to physical reality. Now, if there's no physical reality for them to inhere in, then just how do the laws of gravitation exist? That's what I'd like to know. And if the laws of gravitation gravitation don't exist in a physical universe, then I would suggest that they must exist in another kind of reality that we would call a mentative reality, an intellectual reality, a thinking reality, a mentative reality, a reality, right, that we can sometimes see manifest in quantum fields, but it's going to have to be thinking is going to have to be the ground of the equations of gravity without, and the laws of gravity without a physical universe. Which begs what question? In whose mind does the thought of gravitation exist? And of course, it sounds like a proof of God to me. Thanks very much, Stephen. A pre-physical, pre-universal thought of gravitational equations. What kind of a thought would that be? Well, I'm going to say it's a trans-physical, trans-universal thought of the ideas and equations of gravitation, which sounds like God to me. Right. So I don't think this answers any questions except proves more forcefully the need for a God at the end of the day to produce the very equations and then, as he said in Brief History of Time, to actualize them.